It is Saturday, September 16th, and I am officially calling this meeting to order. And I appreciate the folks that have joined today, and I appreciate our guests who have joined. I truly appreciate the team that we have here at Cincinnati TV Toastmasters, because we are a small but mighty club in the Toastmasters organization. And I do know that we have dedicated staff who continue to bring us special events and special features such as panel discussions and open houses. So I'm really proud of that for our club. So today we will not have our treasurer and longtime member, Janet Kassalen, could not be with us today as she is attending an autumn fest. And there will be animals, there will be demonstrations of animals and all the things you do on a farm in near Lebanon, Ohio, or near Dayton, Ohio, excuse me. And there will be storytelling. And our own Janet Kassalen is an author of the book Flip, Flop, Try. So we know that Janet is otherwise occupied, and some of our other staff members are otherwise occupied today as well. So as far as announcements, I wanted to say that there are always leadership roles available in Toastmasters. And to learn more about leadership roles in our own club, you can contact any one of us. And to learn more about leadership roles in Toastmasters in general, there are town halls and there are conferences and there are many learning opportunities and ways to get involved. We have a couple of those getting ready to come up here in September. Also, they have set the date for the spring conference. The spring conference this year will be in April 26th through 28th. So I think it is time to move on to the agenda. I would like to ask our Toastmaster of the day, David Ash. Welcome and thank you for kicking off our meeting today.
Thank you, Madam President, Joy. And welcome everyone, welcome guests, and welcome my fellow club members. And today we have a little bit of a special agenda where it's mostly focused, our agenda is mostly going to be focused on a panel discussion focused on side hustles that Jeff is going to be facilitating. Before we get to the details of that, though, the panel discussion has brought in several panelists, and as Joy just mentioned, Janet, I believe, is going to be a panelist, but there's going to be a recorded message from Janet, is I believe what's happening there. But the other two panelists have joined us in real time as guests, and they are Brandon and Michael. And would either of you care to maybe introduce yourselves a little bit and just say what's maybe brought you to this meeting, into this club? And I'm the Toastmaster, but I actually don't know a lot about the discussions involving this panel discussion. So maybe Michael, if you maybe care to introduce yourself a bit.
Absolutely. So thank you, David. And thank you first off for inviting me. I did send Jeff over a formal introduction, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I am Michael Pope, known as the Coach's Tech Guy. My background is in information technology. I worked for a major manufacturer for over the last 28 years as a software developer and business consultant. In addition to that, I'm a certified speaker, trainer, and coach with the John Maxwell team, as well as Joseph McClendon's Neuro Coding Institute. And so that's a little bit about me.
Okay. And yes, I was asking you to more introduce yourself as a guest in general, okay, and to welcome you as a guest, but also to welcome you to the panel as well. Thank you for joining the panel. And Brandon, can you say a bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me as well. I am a nurse practitioner. Joined Toastmasters about 2 years ago, and I'm a real estate investor as well on the side. That is my side hustle. So that's what I'm here to discuss with you all today.
Okay. And I'm very interested in the topic myself of side hustles. I've also worked in IT for many years, in specializing especially in artificial intelligence. But I find that I like to have I like to have side hustles for various reasons. One is that I've always found IT to not have a lot of social interaction, shall we say. So I'm a one of my side hustles, I'm a part-time Uber and Lyft driver. It doesn't pay nearly as much, but it does give a lot more social interaction, which I like. I can, if I'm working on an AI algorithm, I might be sitting at my desk all day and never getting, maybe there might be one person I'm interacting with or two people. If I decide to maybe spend a Saturday morning just driving for Uber, I can meet 7 or 8 different people and have interesting conversations. So I enjoy it for that reason. So I'm interested in learning what others the side hustles of others as well. So with that, let's see. Let me look a little bit at the agenda here. So let me introduce some of the roles that are going to be filled by people today. I am actually going to be because we have a relatively small club and we have a relatively small turnout today. I'm going to be doubling up as the timer as well. So as timer, I'm going to be timing table topics and I'm going to be timing speeches. And I actually, in terms of the table topics roles, table topics is an opportunity to give very brief 1 to 2 minute speeches. So for table topics, what I will do is I will, let me see if I can show the, okay, I need to show my, yeah, so in table topics, when we get to, can you all see that it shows green? Can you see that? Great.
Yes.
So when you get to 1 minute, I'm going to be showing the green. When you get to 1 minute and 1.5 minutes, I'm going to be showing the yellow. And when it gets to 2 minutes, I'm going to be showing the red. And there is a little bit of a grace period beyond 2 minutes, but when you get to 2 minutes, it is time to be wrapping things up. Jeff, what did you want to do, or panelists, what did you want to do about timing during the actual panel? And I don't think I've heard, I know the overall panel is 20 minutes. So do you want me to just time the whole thing or time each piece, or how did you want to do that?
If you don't mind giving us a green light at 10 minutes, and then yellow at 12, and a red at 14. That would be perfect. And then we'll go into a Q&A, although we don't really have a lot of people here. So, but yeah, so the Q&A may not be a full 5 minutes, but yeah, let's do that. 10, 12, and 14.
Okay, 10, 12, and 14. Got it. Okay. Let me look again at the agenda here. Okay, so for some reason I'm having trouble pulling up my screen here. Okay, so I've introduced myself as the timer, and again, others are playing multiple roles today because we do have a small turnout today. Although it's nice to see 2 guests here, so that's nice in terms of turnout. Our grammarian and word counter today is going to be Joy, who is also our president. And Joy, I believe, is going to have a word of the day for us. And the word of the day is something that we ask people to use as much as possible, especially in table topics speeches. If you can work the word of the day into the table topic speech, if you can work it into the other speeches, that's great, but especially table topics, it's good to use the word of the day. So Joy, can I turn it back over to you to introduce your role as grammarian and as word of the day?
Thank you, David. I will explain the role of awe counter as the easiest role in the club because we have so many distinguished and proficient speakers in our club that there are seldom many awes to count. I am the perpetrator of the generous sprinkling of ums and ahs. So I have already counted 1 for myself, and I'm not proud of that, but that has calmed down from being 10 in a 2 or 3 minute speech. So I will count the ums and the ahs and any kind of double clutch that you start to say, but I also have the privilege of pointing out interesting words and interesting phrases that come up in your speech and unusual words. So I would like to introduce a word today. The word is distinguished. And distinguished, according to the dictionary, is described as all right. I have lost the page. I think it is a common enough word, but it does mean successful, authoritative, and commanding great respect. It is an example of how to use that would be a distinguished American educationalist. And distinguished also means marked by eminence. And it means distinguished as in leadership, as in an authoritative person. And it means something separate from the common. So our word today is distinguished. And I will be counting the number of times that is used in table topics or incorporated within our speeches. So I could go ahead and introduce our table topics master today, who is Veronica Sanford, also our Vice President of Education and recent past president. Are you ready with table topics, Veronica?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. And I would like to say that in general, the person who is running table topics focuses on people who are not giving speeches. Normally, I would glob on to our guests and ask them to be part of table topics because I'm always fascinated by your points of view. But that said, I'd like to ask David, in terms of pets, do you have a pet? Or would you like a pet? Or do you want to discuss why you don't want a pet? Or any of the above? Or be like a politician. Answer the question the way you wanted to.
Yep. Thank you, Veronica. I have an interesting history with pets. I have not had a pet for a number of years, but my most recent two pets were two cats named Misha and Mushki, and they came to me in my life out at a company, basically at a company holiday party. Someone came up to me basically and asked whether I wanted to have two cats, and I was interested in. At that point, I was willing to take on two cats, so I had them for. I'm actually not sure why this person was even giving up their pets. Actually, I do. I believe he was marrying someone who was allergic to cats. I think that was the situation. We needed to give up these two adult cats. So I had both of them for over 10 years, and they did have a bit of a distinguished influence on my life. I was at a certain point, I was seriously considering a move. Actually, a move out of the country. I had friends of mine who were living in Australia, and I was thinking of maybe applying for work there. And it turned out the immigration side for me was actually not going to be difficult to get to Australia. So that side of things was going to work, but in the end, I decided not to make the trip to Australia because I researched all the stuff about quarantine stuff for cats, and I just did not want to put my cats through that. And so that's I probably would have eventually come back to America. So I was not necessarily going to be in Australia the rest of my life, but that my cats did result in my making a significant change in my life. I said, no, I'm gonna stay here because I want to be with my cats, and I'm glad I made that decision. But I will say that pets do have a significant influence on one's life because it did affect my life, and it does make me cautious because I know if I have a dog or a cat again, it may have similar influence on my life. Thank you, and back to you, Madam Table Toastmaster.
You are. And now back to our president. You can choose a similar answer, or you can answer the question as to other people's pets. And is there anything that really annoys you or that you really love about other people's pets? Joy.
Thank you, Veronica, Table Topics Master. I am honored to speak about pets. I have often been evaluated as someone who does not put enough personal story in my speeches. So let me tell you, my pet, her name is Twyla, and she was named before I got her, although I like the name now. And she is, when people come over, I tell people, have you seen my tiny cat? She is the fattest cat you've ever seen. And I think she's just that kind of breed. I don't overfeed her. I don't feed her table food. I only feed her cat food. But she is part of the family. And I do love cats. I love pictures of cats. I love shorts and reels and memes and things about cats. In fact, I don't post much on social media. And I recently posted, if I win the lottery, I'm not going to tell anyone, but there will be signs. And it's a room full of cats. I don't really think I would go that far, but it is a true fact that I do love cats. I love all cats. So part of your question was if there's anything that irritates, I would not even allow myself to be irritated by things other people do. However, I'm not a dog person, and I love all of my friends' dogs, and I love my family's dogs, and I go, oh, that is the cutest dog. But in general, I'm just not a dog person. And back to you, Veronica, Table Topics Master.
Thank you so much, Joy. Now, I'm looking at our attendee list, and it did look like somebody joined and then dropped, but I'm not seeing any other guests online at the moment. So, unless I am missing, because we have all spoken and will participate in another way, in the interest of time, I will turn it back over to our Toastmaster of the day, David Ash.
Thank you, Veronica, Madam Table Topics Master. And yes, it was good to get a couple of people's perspectives on pets. At this point, I believe it is time to move on to our panel discussion. Typically, what we do is ask the evaluator of any speech to actually introduce the speaker, and that would, I believe, let me just check once again here. But I believe the evaluator is going to be, again, Joy is kind of doubling or tripling up on roles here because we have a small turnout. So, Joy, would you be willing to introduce the panel discussion, and then we can kick it off?
I would be glad to. So, Club, could you please welcome Jeff Vaught, who is going to introduce a panel today who will be discussing side hustles. What is a side hustle? So Side Hustle today is a 20-minute panel discussion featuring a few of our favorite side hustling Toastmasters. Michael Pope, DTM, Janet Kassalen, DTM, and Brandon Kinworthy weigh in on what it takes to build a successful side hustle. I know I'm really looking forward to this, so I would like to introduce Jeff Vaught presenting Side Hustles panel discussion.
Great, thank you. I did see a few people join and then they left. There was two people that joined the call and then they left. So I don't know what happened there. How do you turn your passion into a profit? How do you generate flexibility and stability in this topsy-turvy career environment that we all live in? How do you increase your financial security? The answer is a side hustle, a secondary freelance job that can earn extra income, allow you to pursue your passions, and learn new skills. Fortunately, today we have three distinguished, word of the day, panelists who have taken the side hustle journey. The first is Michael Pope, an IT professional for a Fortune 500 company. His side hustle was coaching, teaching, and training via Michael Pope Training LLC. And I'll let him introduce himself in a little bit. We also have Brandon Kinworthy, is a cardiovascular nurse practitioner. His side hustle is real estate investing. And Janet Kassalen could not attend. However, I do have a video I'm going to play. She was a retired licensed dietitian. Her side hustle is authoring children's books. So I'm going to start off with Michael Pope. Tell us about Michael Pope Training LLC and what was the impetus for starting your side business, Michael?
Greetings, everyone. Thank you, Jeff, for the introduction. I am Michael Pope, the Coach's Tech Guy. And so for me, my background is in the information technology field. I've worked in IT for the last 28 years as a software developer and had various roles throughout my career. But for me, I wanted to have a side hustle that I was passionate about. And so for me, it's Michael Pope Training. That's where I do keynote speeches and coach individuals and leadership training.
And now, when I asked Michael to participate, I'm also aware of like 3 or 4 other things that you've done in the past. I know you did some training for Dave Ramsey, Financial
yes.
Peace University, I think it's called.
Yes.
And you've done English as a second language. You've done some training for that, and the list probably goes on and on. So I jokingly said, you look in the dictionary under side hustle, you will see a picture of Michael Pope. Now you mentioned you mentioned Michael Pope Training LLC. You know, how active? Just give people a sense of how active this training, this side hustle that you do. It's not 1 or 2 workshops that you've done.
Yeah, I've literally done hundreds of trainings. So as part of Michael Pope Training LLC, I've actually partnered up with the John Maxwell team, and so I'm actually one of their paid instructors where I actually train their coaches on a regular basis. So just with the John Maxwell team alone, I probably do on average about 9 hour-long training sessions per month with the John Maxwell team. Then in addition to that, I was hired on by Joseph McClendon's Newer Encoding Institute to train his coaching staff. And I do around on average about 4 trainings per month with his team. And then in addition to that, Jeff, I also have done lots of keynote presentations and travel, virtual presentations, and really just taking a lot of the skills that I learned here in Toastmasters and being able to really monetize those.
One thing I find interesting, and by the way, we are going to have an audience Q&A here, so be thinking about questions towards the end of this. But the thing that really jumps out at me, Michael, is with John Maxwell and both Joseph McClendon. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you got involved with them to develop your skills, and then ultimately they ended up being part of the side hustle, if you will. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, right? So I initially started off as investing in myself into those organizations as someone who wanted, like you said, wanted to grow my skills as a coach, leader, trainer, and all that. And then what I did was I did the same thing that I learned here in Toastmasters. I started adding value where I could. And they recognized the value that I was adding and asked me to be a part of that paid instructor team, which was a great honor. Feel humbled by it. But I'm thankful for the opportunity.
Let me back up for a second. What do you really love? What is it about coaching, teaching, and training? What's the aha moment for you? What really gets the dopamine flowing, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it all started back with my initial journey into Toastmasters, where when I joined Toastmasters back in 2003, I was terrified of public speaking, very low confidence, and I didn't have any desire at all to be a leader. Well, Toastmasters helped me overcome my fear of public speaking, gave me opportunities to be a leader inside Toastmasters, and Toastmasters showed me how to facilitate trainings through our TLI sessions and in various other trainings I've done in Toastmasters. And so when I joined the John Maxwell team, I was able to take those skills that I had learned here in Toastmasters and quickly apply them with the Maxwell leadership. And really the passion behind it was I've always loved helping other people. And I was able to do that a lot in Toastmasters, but then I realized that I need to really monetize that. And Toastmasters doesn't really talk about monetizing those skills, even though Toastmasters really shows us how to be great mentors, right? We mentor new people when they join Toastmasters. We're giving trainings on a regular basis. Well, I wanted to join an organization where I can monetize those skills, and I've been able to do that. And I love helping other people. So when I'm doing one-on-one coaching or group coaching, I love being able to impact people and really see a difference, help them be more productive in whatever they're doing.
Cool. And then last question, what's next for Michael Pope LLC, Michael Pope Training LLC? What's next? What plans do you have for the future?
Yeah, so my biggest future plans right now is I'm in the process of making a transition away from corporate America into Michael Pope Training full time. I've already got a plan in place for that. Financially, we're doing great, and so we kind of know what we need to get done. So that's my big plan, because this is really where my passion is at. Like I love IT. IT pays well. I can do great things in IT. However, at the end of the day, I'm not making as much impact in IT as I can as a coach, speaker, trainer. And I know right now I've turned down opportunities that I wouldn't have had to turn down if I wasn't in my full-time corporate position. So that's why, I know I've got to transition over the next couple of years away from that and just really go out and be able to serve people and really be able to let my gifts shine.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. We'll have more questions for you, I'm sure. I'm going to transition over to Brandon. So Brandon, I introduced your side hustle as a real estate investor. I guess the first thing, if you could help us distinguish, this is not just a passive role that, like anybody investing in the stock market or real estate in a passive sense. You're much more active. So just tell us what you do with real estate investing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I will contrast right now with Michael. His is extremely active, his side hustle. He intends to turn this around in the next year, it sounds like, and turn this into a full hustle, his full-time job. So mine is very much in the blossoming stages. So let me preface with that. And one other thing that I'll say before I jump into this is if Michael ever needs another side hustle, I think if he's been doing IT for 28 years, I think he needs like a health and wellness coaching program as well, because this man does not look old enough for that. But anyways, so to contrast my real estate side hustle with an investment, what I'll tell you is I have one investment property right now. So I'm by no means, the most prolific real estate investor, but I do have intentions to amp that up over time. And, I don't know if that will become my full-time hustle and take over my full-time job, but I've seen people that do that, and that is something that I would aspire to. But I think of investing as the stock market as well. And they're something that's very passive is what I think of as just simply investing. There are passive real estate investment opportunities like REITs, if people have heard of REITs, and syndications that you can get involved in. But my rental property is very hands-on. You've got to find tenants, you've got to bookkeep, you've got to perform maintenance, you've got to contemplate your finances and where they fall right now, what the intention of your finances in 30 years from now is, how is this rental property playing into my my overall investment goals for myself and my family. So yeah, that's what I would say to start with.
How did you get into this? How did you become aware of it? And then, let's just answer that one first.
Yeah, to play off of what Michael said a little bit, I got married a little over 5 years ago, and I think before that I was very much an adolescent in my approach towards life. I didn't see myself doing much more than just working a 9 to 5 job and retiring in 30 years or 40 years or whatever. But I think getting married sort of opened my eyes up to the possibilities of more and what thinking about what I was capable of. So this was my primary residence in Columbus before I moved to Cincinnati, that we turned into a rental, something that I never would have dove into up until the last 5 years. But I think anyone that's got a side hustle, a successful side hustle, I think they'll tell you that you find something that you have an unfair advantage in. My stepdad is a real estate investor himself, and he helps me immensely. He's my mentor in this. He helps me with boots on the ground, with with finding tenants and helping me with all of the things that come along with it, a rental property. So anyone that is interested in a side hustle, I think contemplating where you've got that unfair advantage. Obviously, Michael has kind of fallen into his side hustle as well and sort of forced the issue as well, but he knows his skill set. He's developed that skill set and he's developed mentors over the years. And now he's become that mentor. For me, it's my stepdad has been my mentor, and he's a model for me to follow after. So it's made it easier for me to jump into something that was otherwise very foreign.
Your stepdad, but also I'm aware, I think you also participate in something called the Real Estate Investors Association of Greater Cincinnati. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. So networking is a huge part of, the future for me of as far as developing further real estate opportunities.
Thank you. And just stand aside or be on standby, because we are going to field some questions from the audience here in just a minute. I am going to play now a video of Janet. So let me just share my screen. And apologies for this first picture of Janet that I have frozen on the screen. I caught her at a bad moment there. But the first thing I asked her was, tell us about your children's books. As I mentioned, that she has authored a couple children's books, and just how she got started as an author. So I'll play that for you.
Well, my first book, I did bring a copy of it with me. Flip, Clap, Try, A Cardinal's Journey. It's my first book. And my second book is A Penguin Family Finding Joy. Well, the first one started out as a speech for the Toastmasters International Advanced Storytelling Manual. I had to write a story with a moral, and I remembered about this cardinal that kept attacking my husband's red truck Explorer.
Now, Janet, as she was explaining that to me, I realized that she actually gave that speech at a Toastmasters meeting at TV Toastmasters. So I went back in the archives on YouTube and I did find that speech. So just take a look at this.
Also on this trip, there was a red cardinal that kept attacking my husband's red Explorer truck. He must have thought that the truck was a big cardinal.
So obviously I didn't play the entire speech, but I just thought that was interesting that she actually did that speech at TV Toastmasters. So then I asked her, what kind of help did you receive to put you on the right path to success?
Originally, I wanted the book to be for people that were struggling with their careers, trying to find a start, especially those right after college. And my book would give them hope to try new things and to find their dream job. It was my book coach that suggested my story would best fit a children's book, and that's why we went the children's book route.
And then I asked her, how do you make potential readers and buyers aware of your books?
Well, I first started selling my book to family and friends, And then I was able to get a book signing at a shop, picture this, in Lebanon, Ohio. And it was there that I sold my first book to someone that was a stranger to me. So I've been having book signings in Lebanon and a couple other places where my book is being sold.
And then the same question I asked Michael, what's next? And he talked about maybe turning this into a full hustle. Brandon told us what's next for him is just to expand. He has one rental property and wants to expand. So I asked the same thing to Janet. What's next?
I find myself doing musical things a lot. I know at first I wanted to write some songs to go along with my children's books. So maybe that is a possibility down the road to do that.
And finally, I asked her what she would say to someone who wants to start a side hustle.
Well, getting books published is rewarding, and it's something I can share with the world, and it's brought me lots of joy.
So I want to just briefly, before we open it up to the audience for questions, just identify some common themes that I heard amongst our three panelists. Let me just share my screen. So these are kind of the 5 things that I found in common. The first, to be successful with your side hustle is to find joy in it. So I heard from all 3 panelists, there's something deep down that gave them joy with their, and that's why they're passionate about it, maybe even more so than their regular day job. I think the second one is seeking assistance. We heard Brandon, he's a member of this real estate investment association, is also his stepfather. Michael with Joseph McClendon, John Maxwell, even Toastmasters, and actually going out and seeking assistance. And Janet hiring a coach, actually a couple different coaches, a life coach, a book coach, and I think there was a third one in there. The third is flexibility. And I hear this seems to be a common theme as well. Janet, that really jumps out at me, what Janet said. She started out, this was a post-college career kind of book that she was trying to write or decided to write, and then ultimately it got pivoted and turned into a children's book. And then the fourth is obviously give effort. But, is it really effort when you're having fun and you're enjoying it? It's still effort. It's not work necessarily, but it's still effort. And then the last is just to recognize opportunities. That's kind of what's next. Always be on the lookout. I thought Janet's answer was interesting. I thought it would be a third book, but no, it's maybe something a little different where she can bring in her experience with music, or Michael bringing in his experience with IT, all his 28 years, or Brandon as well. So recognizing opportunities as they come along. So with that, I'll just leave this on the screen for a second. Let's open it up to the audience for any questions we have for our panelists. And by the way, if you're a panelist, you can also ask a question to another panelist. So David, do you have your hand up?
I do, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, my question for both panelists, and I'd have it for Janet as well if she were able to reply in real time, is what, or I guess I would phrase it, how difficult is it to get the support, or at least not the opposition, of your main hustle? So I've often found that I'm working in environments where I'm often working in startups as my main hustle, which are pretty intense, and where there's sometimes a little bit hostile to the idea of someone having a side hustle. So did you find that you had the full support of your main job? Did you find it didn't really matter one way or the other? Or what? Like, basically my question is, if you're working 100-hour weeks in your main job, it's kind of tough to have a side hustle, or if your hours are unpredictable in the main job. So I'm basically asking how you balance the main hustle with that side hustle.
Hey, so I'll start that off. So one thing I would say is don't work 100 hours a week anywhere, first off, right? But then in terms of the balance, so with me working for a large Fortune 500 company, I knew that there could potentially be some issues. So one of the things I wanted to make sure that I did with any type of side hustle that I added on is that in no way did it ever look like I was stealing time from my full-time employer. In fact, I made it a point to make sure that I do my best to continue to excel at my job while I'm working my side hustle. So like for me, like if you go to my LinkedIn profile as an example, you really can't even tell the company that I work for. Like most, even my coworkers, they're like, "Are you still working here at International Paper?" Because they see everything is branded towards my business, and I let them know, well, I'm not looking for another job. So this is my passion. I'm not talking about IT because then I get contacted by IT recruiters on a regular basis. They don't want me looking for another job either. So it's, but the biggest thing I would say is if you're upfront and honest with them. I mean, like I don't tell my employers everything that I'm doing with my side business, but I still make a point to make sure that I am as productive as possible in my day job, but still allowing myself enough time, energy, and resources to fully put in great effort towards my side hustle.
I want to ask a quick follow-up on that because I was thinking the same thing. And in your case, Michael, and this might be a little unusual, but and just correct me if I'm wrong, but your company is pretty supportive of the stuff you do, to the extent that they know, because I know there are other Toastmasters, Phil Barth and others that are doing kind of on the same path. But so is that accurate to say they're pretty supportive of?
Yeah, so fairly supportive. I think, and Phil and I are in the exact same way. So what we did was we took our skills of speaking and training and we give it away constantly for free at our job. So when opportunities for training come up or they're looking for speakers at work, then we'll quickly raise our hand and volunteer. That allowed both of us really to initially get great support for Toastmasters, for them to let us take time away during the daytime hours to attend Toastmasters meetings, because we've shown that we're taking the skills that we've learned and giving them back to the job.
Yeah, great. Joy, you had a question.
Do you want to let Brandon answer that question, David? Or
I can answer real quickly. My company is actually very strict on that type of thing. So I think like you, David, if someone were to jump into a side hustle more like Michael's, where they are doing very hands-on type of work, my company requests or maybe even requires that we let them know about that, and they can actually remove compensation from your salary if they so choose. I've been very transparent about my real estate. I don't necessarily think that is something that they would consider the same way, as far as like this could potentially take away from Brandon's hours at work. But yeah, definitely something to consider, especially with your 100-hour work weeks.
Joy, you had a question?
I would like to ask Brandon. He spoke quite a bit about his love for his side hustle and some benefits of that. I would just like to ask you, are there organizations that you belong to or groups that you find helpful in learning more about real estate investing?
Yeah, I can answer that briefly. So probably the main thing that I do is podcasts. Bigger Pockets is one that if anyone is interested, that's the main real estate website that a lot of America uses. But around Cincinnati, there are at least two meetups of about anywhere from 10 to 35 people that show up on a monthly basis to talk about real estate. So, you share handymen, you share contractors, you share plumbers, all of these things, and you share strategies for your future. So those are the main two ways.
And Veronica, you had a question?
Apologies, I just wanted to give a timing alert.
Yep.
That
So we'll wrap it up with
I-
that. I want to thank all of our panelists and Janet in absentia, Michael Pope, and Brandy Kinworthy. And the last thing I'll point out, all of them are Toastmasters, not necessarily in this club. Janet's a member of this club, Michael Mason Speech Weavers, and possibly another Loveland Speakeasy, and Brandon Talk Toastmasters. So with that, I'll turn it back to our esteemed Toastmaster, Joy Harris. I'm sorry, David Ash.
No, I'm actually, yes, I'm the Toastmaster, but I will put a minute on the clock to allow Joy is stepping in to be evaluator now. So I'm going to give Joy a minute to evaluate.
David, I took notes during all of the presentations. I don't need a full minute.
Okay. So let's move on then. Okay, so Veronica, you are a general evaluator. So would you I'm going to turn it over to you and you can introduce the evaluator of the day.
Excellent. Thank you. Joy, take it away.
All right. As I said, the ah counter is the easiest job because I did not count a lot of ahs and ums. I did count a couple of ahs and ums in Brandon's speech, and I caught some in myself. It also was quite a stumble to not have the definition of the word of the day ready. I had closed that tab, so that was quite a stumble. I did find quite a few people who used the distinguished word of the day. I used it, David used it, Jeff used it, and Veronica, if you used it, I think I missed it. The evaluation of the presentation, I'm going to have to watch the timer because I will just go on and on if I'm not alerted to my time. But I did find that Jeff was a very authentic interviewer and he made this topic very interesting. And I specifically liked that he added points of success for side hustles, but he did an excellent job asking the questions and making it an interesting dialogue among our speakers. Michael is very professional. There's another a very professional speaker. I really enjoy his background where he has his name and his picture as part of his background. He said that he was in a different location today, but he adapted very well. He is a very confident speaker. The John Maxwell program, I've heard of it. I believe it's a very serious program. It is for serious speakers who choose to speak on stages and on Zoom calls all over the world. So I believe he mentioned his interest in his John Maxwell program, but he also mentioned that he likes helping people. He has several side hustles and he said he likes to let his gift shine. Brandon also had very good facial expressions. He was very demonstrative in what he said. I don't know if he was specifically concentrating on his vocal variety, but in our Zoom calls, it is sometimes difficult to get gestures and to get our way across if we don't really punch it up with vocal variety. But Brandon's facial expressions were very expressive, telling us exactly how he feels. I had to light up when he said, "Getting married opened up his eyes." I specifically like that one. I also like that he mentioned he has a mentor. And today's topic really was spontaneous speaking, more than prepared speeches. So I thought all of our speakers did very well. Our moderator and our two speakers. And it was so delightful to see Janet's original TV Toastmasters clip from years ago. And also it was very well done to bring her on as a pre-recorded speaker. I really enjoyed that quite a bit. And Janet will take her banjo to the festival today and very likely be playing the banjo with her friends. So I believe we had an excellent time today with our panel discussion. Thank you, and back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Actually, it's back to the general evaluator, and that's
I'm sorry,
absolutely okay.
Veronica. Back to
Not a
Veronica.
problem at all. And now I would like to ask the timer to give the timing report.
Yes, the timers report here for table topics, which are intended to be 1 to 2 minutes. I myself was 1 minute 55 seconds, and Joy for table topics, 1 minute 44 seconds. For the panel discussion, we did run a bit over. It was supposed to be 20 minutes. It was about 26 minutes. And Joy seemed to kind of combine her evaluation and her grammarian report. So the evaluation is supposed to be 2 to 3 minutes. She kind of squeezed the grammarian report in there as well. So it came in at 3 minutes, 59 seconds, a bit over, but because she kind of squeezed in grammarian as well, I think it's fine. So back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Excellent job. Well, perfect. I loved having the panelists. I love having the panel discussion. Excellent job, Jeff. We started on time. We're working on ending on time. And now I would like to turn it back over to the Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. And as we begin to wrap up the meeting, I don't have a lot to add. Like I said at the beginning, I was especially interested in this side hustles topic because it's something that having that balance myself between a strong main hustle, but a side hustle, which maybe is something I'm more passionate about, is something is kind of a work in progress for me as well. So I did want to, before I turn it back to the club president to close the meeting, I did want to just see if either of our two guests, if you had anything to add, your thoughts on the meeting in general. And I'm not so much in your capacity as panelists, but it also brought Michael and Brandon to this meeting as guests. Do you have any thoughts, any closing thoughts for us, just as guests at this meeting? Either of you.
Yeah, so I'll go first.
Yeah.
So I love the panel. I love the whole theme of the panel. I mean, this was great. Jeff, you did a wonderful job of asking us questions, keeping it short. This is a topic that really could have been an hour by itself easily, but I think it flowed really well. Brandon, great job. I loved your answers. Your one statement about having an unfair advantage, I was like, yes, that's so important. I mean, I love that idea. So great job. Great meeting, everybody.
Yeah, I applaud you guys for taking on multiple roles in the meeting. I know that's not easy to maintain week after week or month after month, but you guys all did that without issue, without effort, it seemed, and you're very warm and inviting group of folks here. So Jeff and I were chatting about your group, and you're a strong core membership, and I feel like just from what I saw today, it's just a matter of getting people into this meeting and seeing what you guys are and what you offer to grow. It's just a matter of time. So I think this panel was a great idea, and I think hopefully some folks watch the recording of this.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I will before I turn it back over to Joy, I'll just ask Jeff if he had any thoughts on how the meeting went as sort of the facilitator of the panel discussion, and then I will turn it back over to Joy for her closing remarks.
No, I don't really have anything. I did advertise this on Eventbrite, and I got probably about 8 tickets. Yeah, it's free, obviously, but they have to register. So I got 8 tickets. I think maybe a couple of them tried to join. I don't know why maybe they thought they were in the wrong place. I don't know. So, that's something maybe I'll need to work on next time. But other than that, yeah, great panel. We need better attendance. So, and that's on me. So back to you.
Okay, so thank you, Jeff. And I will just close by saying that yes, the the topic of the panel was something that interested me a lot, and I definitely learned some stuff from from both of you and from Janet. So with that, I will turn it over to our club president, Joy, for any closing remarks, any thoughts that she may have on how the meeting went, or anything else that she wants to add before we close it off for the day. So I'm done now as Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And thank you. You did a great job as Toastmaster today, as Jeff did a great job as panel discussion host. And I am so appreciative of our guests, Michael Pope and Brandon Kinworthy, who attended today. We will follow up with the folks who attended from Eventbrite, and it is a good idea to do a little more publicity on these. However, we do get frequent visitors to our YouTube channel. We started out as a cable TV show, and we are Cincinnati TV Toastmasters, so we do rely on the replays. And Jeff at this time is making that possible for us. So I can't say enough how much I enjoyed the content, the professionalism of the way everyone performed today. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Now, we don't have a joke master, and our general evaluator had to jump off early, so she's already gone, but she used to tell a joke, and if we had time, if we needed fillers between things, she was always ready with a joke. So you'll know that I do my best at trying to provide a grin. So I want to tell you about a knight that I met, and it was a knight who was afraid to fight. His name was Sir Render. But I also met a woman who owned a taser, and she was quite stunning. So with that is my best attempt at bringing a grin to the meeting. And I would like to wrap it up today to say that I am proud of our small but mighty group. And as Toastmasters, we are encouraged to be active, be engaged, and achieve together. That is a Toastmaster theme for this year. So be active, be engaged, and achieve together. I would like to wrap up the meeting with 2 minutes to spare. Is there any other comments anyone would like to add before we turn off the recording?
And not for me. Thank you very much, Joy. Great meeting. Great panel discussion.